Here we go again with saving Naramata Bench from suburbia syndrome. Didn't First Nations said many times they want to save the Naramata Bench hillside for future generations? Wasn't that issue put to rest in 2022? Ever thought about whether or not acknowledgement statements mean anything in the city of Penticton? Let's play a game of true or false. Item number 1, the city of Penticton. Acknowledgement statements are sincere. You might think true, right? Well, the answer is actually false. You see, the future land use map and land use designation for rural residential in the OCP and the proposed changes are a slap in the face of First Nations. It totally neglects their aspirations to protect the forest and the grayback elk. The city's actions show acknowledgement statements are just empty words. Stay tuned for the next items in our game of true or false. You might be surprised at what you'll learn. Now let's think about how the city of Penticton aligns its plans with United Nations declared biodiversity emergency and our obligation to protect nature habitat and forests to ensure our own survival. So let's look at the primary growth forest and the grayback elk on the Naramata Bench hillside. Are they well protected? True or false? It's protected by appropriate zoning to prevent conversion to another suburbia. You'd think so, right? But the truth is, it's false. Here's where things get a bit tricky. The Penticton Official Community Plan, or OCP, is a clever scheme only developers understand. On the Naramata Bench hillside, a loophole in the OCP lets landowners apply for a zoning change under the future land use bylaw. Most of the hillside on the Naramata Bench has been given the rural residential as future land use designation, no matter if current zoning is agriculture or forestry grazing. Generally, that includes pretty much all the hillside lands visible from the bench or from a distance. This changes effective zoning from agriculture or forestry grazing to rural residential. What does that mean? It means all the land can be easily converted to bare land strata subdivision of land parcels of 1 hectare with 2 houses or 1 acre lots with 2 houses if connected to city-treated water. It will start this summer with the Reservoir Road development unless council reverses course somehow. This loophole will lead to the destruction of this fragile forested area and the bucolic feeling of our beautiful Naramata Bench country here in Penticton. And we can kiss goodbye to the grayback elk. Do you believe our municipal government listens to its residents, its tourist clients, and the First Nations? Maybe there are still some to answer. True. But alas, the correct answer is false. We find ourselves in a dysfunctional relationship with our municipal government. On the Naramata Bench, it turns a deaf ear to what we say if it doesn't align with its agenda. That's what the last 4 years demonstrate clearly. The community engagement process seems more like a lullaby designed to put people to sleep, discourage participation, and obtain the feedback the City Council needs to pat itself on the back. It's an unfortunate reality that the voices of the community, the very heartbeat of the city, may not be truly heard. And this indifference extends to winery owners and the First Nations. What about the city's zoning and planning process? Is it effective at delivering the livable neighborhoods residents desire, the housing people can afford, and protect the natural features that make this place so attractive? You'd think so, right? The answer is not always. On the Naramata Bench, the city's zoning and planning process is like navigating through a labyrinth where only developers find their way. It's a convoluted process that leaves residents confused and incapable to argue against delusion presented as good stewardship. Even the most astute and interested are left scratching their heads. The process is supposed to be transparent and straightforward, but in reality it's anything but. It has become like a crackerjack box from which anything can come out of at any time. Good stewardship and common sense has been thrown out the window for the sake of more development. And if you're not well versed in the jargon, you might find yourself lost in a sea of confusion. The unpredictability of the process leads to decisions that may not align with the best interests of the community, the environment, or the Silks First Nation. So the zoning and planning process is not as reliable as we'd hope unless, of course, you are a developer.